Okay, so let's proceed. Actually, what we did in the last class was just to explain some terminologies for us. I believe you have, like something I know by now, you have the VirtualBox running on your machine and you have installed Kali Linux on it. Something I guess you have done that. So Engineer English that is just joining us, something, I believe you have done that, right? Hello, Samson, can you hear me? Please, you can unmute your mic and talk to me so that I can hear you.
So please come again. I didn't hear you. I'm mistaken.
I said, I believe you have the Oracle VM installed already.
It's on my system.
Yes. Okay. You are the one that say you are running Kali direct on your system, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's fine. For engineer that is just joining us, some of the things we have done, we have been able to go to a website, and the website, the first website we went to was the virtualbox.org, right? So you can write this down, virtualbox.org. If you visit this website, you will have the opportunity of downloading this VirtualBox. I took time to explain what a VirtualBox is and what it enables us to do. It helps us to have multiple operating systems installed on our PC, right? So you can go here, click on that, and come to the Windows host and download this, what I am highlighting. That's what you're going to download. So that's the first thing you are downloading, engineer. Then the second is to go to kali.org. You can write it down also, kali.org, right? And when you go to kali.org, you see this. So you click on this, download, right? And when you click on that, it takes you to all the images that you can download. For now, let's use, you can go and download the live boot, which is what I am using currently, the live boot, or you download the virtual machines, right? So if you are doing this, if you click on that, it takes you here. So you download the one for VirtualBox because what you download at initial is VirtualBox. So this is what you are downloading, the one for VirtualBox. Or if you are downloading the live, then it should be this, right? The Kali Live, the one for 2024 that have Kali 2024 point release live image, right? Not the weekly image and not everything. The one in the middle that the road recommended is what you are going to be downloading. So those are the two tools we have downloaded so far. So what is expected of us to do, first of all, is to install the Oracle VM. So when you install the Oracle VM, this is what you'll be having, just like what I have. So when you launch it, you can now go ahead and add the operating system that you have downloaded, which is the what you downloaded from kali.org, right? So that is what I did here, and I have this operating system installed here for me, right? So you can actually use the new and then give the operating system a name. Then the file you downloaded, you select it here, right? Go to others, and to take you to your file location where you can, link up with the ISO file that you have. So when you select the ISO file that you have downloaded, you can now load that operating system and you have something like this. So that is what we have done so far previously. That's for engineering English. Then I think what we did in our last class that some of us missed, like what Samson missed, was to have looked at some of the commands in Kali, right? So if I go ahead and power my Kali machine, I go ahead and power my Kali machine because when you load the Kali machine on your operating system or your VirtualBox, you have something like this. So you can run Kali synonymously with the operating system that you have. So like something that have Linux installed, definitely you can run Windows on your Linux machine or other distributions of Kali on your Linux machine, right? So like I said, I'm using the live Kali, so I'll just go ahead and click enter, right? And it will boot up for me to have Kali operating system. And like I told us, it's good for you to work with different types of operating systems so that when you eventually carry out, a pen testing or you gain access into a device, you should be able to find your way around it. So these are some of the things we actually looked at, both Kali machine and then our Windows machine. So while our Kali is coming up, we can just navigate to the Windows operating system and look at what we did the other day. So what we did the other day, one of the first things we discussed was the registry key. The registry key, we told us that our Windows operating system is structured into layers, right? The layers are referred to as keys, right? Or hives, rather, hive keys. Hive is Hives, hive keys, right? So the Windows registry is structured in 5 hives. So whatever happens in the operating system, this Windows machine that you're seeing, is logged in those 5 hives. So for us to see the hives of our Windows operating system, you can do your Windows arrow and type regedit. You can take that down. So regedit stands for registry editor, right? So if you do this and click enter, it will prompt you whether you want to do this, and then it opens the registry editor for you. Now, these are the 5 structures that all that is in this Windows machine have. And whatever is done on this machine can be taken out and then investigated, right? So if you look at it, it has the HKey class root, HKey current user, HKey local machine, HKey users, and HKey current configs, just as their names imply. These ones, the roots have information about the root user of this machine, right? The, the root user of the machine information is what is recorded here, right? And if you click on the arrow, definitely you see it. Now, these are things that have to do with, what must be on this system before you can use some functions, right? So these are the things that are found here. We also looked at the hive key current user. So as a current user, if there is a crime on this machine and somebody wants to investigate this machine, this is where he comes to, because I am actually the current user. So he can just come and take information from here. He can do this. He can just click on this without even opening it, come to file and export. Now, you cannot investigate this machine while sitting on the machine. You have to extract it. And that is why forensics, in digital forensics, if you want to define digital forensics, it starts from you identifying an evidence, right? Then extracting it. There must be that extraction, right? So I think maybe with time we'll look at the definition of digital forensics in total so that we understand that you need to identify that, okay, of all the things that happen in this system, who is the likely person that can commit this crime, right? Is it the current user, or we should go to all the users? So if different users are signed on this machine, definitely you know that this is where you are coming to, the hive key users, because it has the keys for all the entries for all the users that have used this computer system. But if you want to extract information of only the current user, the person that is sitting on that machine, definitely you know is this one. And like I told you, you cannot investigate this machine sitting on it. So what you do is to export it to another machine, and then you go and import it on that machine, and then look at the contents of that file, right? Now, with this registry editor, you can either, like I showed us, you can import a Hive. If maybe somebody exported it and gave it to me, I can come here and import it to analyze it, right? And that's how when you export here and give to the other person, it goes to his own and also import, right? And then analyze it. So we have the H key for local machine. Now the H key for local machine stores information about the machine, like the machine time, the wireless devices connected to it, the local devices connected to this machine. Those are the information you find here. And then we have that of the current config. How did you configure the system, right? What is your configuration? What are the changes you have made on the system? So this is what we call the registry editor. And it has all of this information. And just like we told us in the last class, as we proceed, we'll be looking at how to decrypt some of this information, how to open them, and then analyze some of them and look at what they actually contain, right? So we'll be looking at that as we progress, right? So those are the things, this is one of the things we looked at in our last meeting. So understand that the Windows machine is structured in 5 hives, right? The Windows registry is structured in 5 hives, right? Hives is just, the meaning of hive is just a hierarchical arrangement of something, right? So that's what hives are. So, and you can see the H stands for hive. So we can say hive key, classes, roots, right? So that is how you can identify them, and always know there are 5 of them. In every Windows operating system, there are 5 of them. We're going to digress into them as we progress, right? So that was the first thing we looked at. The second thing we looked at was to have come here to any of our folders and just go to where you see this PC. You see this PC, right? You can just right click there, right? And then click on manage. This is this PC, your entire PC, right? So when you just go there, click on manage, right? It will open this part for you. This is another part of our computer system that has to do with managing the entire computer system and understanding what is happening in the computer system. It is not about typing Microsoft Word and all of those things, right? Also, if you can't go through that pattern, you can just come and do, let me see, I think Windows arrow, come MGT. Okay, that's not it. Let me see. Okay, we'll get that with time. But you can still come to your search bar and just search for computer management. So you can see computer management. Samson, you wanted to say something?
Sir.
Okay, so you can see computer management, the same thing, just like what we did and went to manage. So now in computer management, this is the place that you can manage all your settings and how you want your computer to look like. This is also the place whereby you determine what has happened on that system, right? You are not on the system, but you want to know the things that have happened on the system. More so, this is also very helpful for you as an investigator, because this is a place you will see all the things that have happened on that system. Now, this is a task scheduler, right? What are the tasks that have been scheduled to happen and at what time? You can discover them here. For instance, if maybe your system is infected with a Trojan or with a virus, and that virus is being, designed in a way that, okay, it has to, start, it has to start its task after a particular period of time. When that stuff is installed on your PC, this is the place it comes to stay, waiting for that particular time to reach before it starts manifesting itself. So this task scheduler palette helps us to see all the tasks that have been scheduled to happen or to run on this system. So that is what the task scheduler helps us do, right? So we can scroll down and see all our active tasks, right? So you see that Google Update is a scheduled task, right? So it triggers every 6:50 p.m. of every day, right? You can see Microsoft Edge update also triggers 9:10 a.m. of every day. Now, these are some of the places that, manufacturers will want to use and trace activities that are happening on your device. If you maybe are installing, you install maybe a cracked, software, and the manufacturer want to be tracking you. Definitely that software will come with a scheduler that will always be reporting to it every time, right? Also devices like things like all these zombies that feed back to the command and control centers. These are the places they will stay. You understand? So that the manufacturer can have a connect with your device, right? You can see this one, Microsoft configured it to be scanning for updates every time, multiple triggers, right? You can see the next run time for that will be 12th of 12th of March 2024 at 10:48. That will be the next time this particular thing is going to run. This scans for updates is going to run, right? Automatically on my system, right? So even viruses can be programmed to start running on your system automatically. And these are the places they are coming to hide, right? So most times you look at your task scheduler to be sure and certain of the type of tasks that are scheduled to run on your PC, right? And the ones that you don't understand them, you flush them out. Now, most times what you do is you can just take the name of each task, just like this task is plug scheduler. I can just drop it on Google and it will tell me what that task is meant for, right? And if the task is not meant for something good, definitely I can just, end that task, right? So if I scroll down, you see that there are a lot of things in my computer system that are being triggered on their own. They have a particular time they run. Like some of these, I don't even know what they are, right? And if not for this course, I actually have not, start going through some of these tasks, right? Because some of them seems to be malicious. But before you can terminate them or stop them, you have to, do a research to know what their function actually is before you terminate those tasks, right? Because most of the tasks I'm seeing here are actually Microsoft Windows-based tasks, right? So I have to look at them to know what is what and what they are doing on the system. So the task scheduler is a very important place to come, especially like I told us, if there are viruses that are running on our system and they are being triggered, to run at a particular time or are based on a particular action, these are the locations you look for that, right? Then we have the event viewer. Now, the event viewer is actually a very important tool and is very important to forensic examiners also because just like we told us that there's nothing that you do on the Windows machine that can be hidden. That is how, the only place you can find that and make sure that that is not hidden is in the event viewer. So the event viewer logs all the things that happens on our system, right? By logging them, it registers them somewhere on the system. You can see it is actually still reading. It's actually still reading. So it's giving me a summary of administrative activities, how many errors, the last hour of the error, and other information, warnings that this system has had, audit success and audit failures, right? Information, right? So now what we just did here was to categorize all of these things into various categories, right? And in computing, definitely, when you see something that is very critical for you to attend to, it means that activity is something that can cause harm to your device, right? So if you see something that is very critical and it's registered here that, okay, you have a critical information, definitely you should know that, okay, you have to look at it, right? If we have errors, we also can look at our errors. If somebody is trying to do a particular thing on the system, and or the kernel is trying to carry out a process and there's an error, it is also registered here and with the event IDs. Now, this is also important because at times it might be a virus that is trying to carry out an event on your PC, and your firewall is stopping it, right? At times, although those ones can be found under warnings, right? So in the last 3 hours or in the last hour, we've got 3 warnings, right? In the last 24 hours, we have got 375 warnings. And the last 7 days, we have gotten 1,738, warnings. So you can look at the warnings to also know who and what that warning is. For instance, I can see a warning, the source is E1D Express. If I don't know what this is, it's just to take it to Google, and then you ask Google, what is this? So E1D Express, E1D Express, right? So Ethernet is disconnecting randomly with errors. So maybe I tried connecting to an internet device and the thing is disconnecting randomly, it's connecting and disconnecting. So it's giving a warning, right? And that is why we have that, right? So you can see whatever it is you don't understand or you don't know, you can just take the process, the source of the process to, to Google, and you will know what they are, right? And sometimes when your virus are running underground, these are the places they will be. You can just go there and then disable them, right? Instead of going through using antiviruses and all those things, because those are the things that antiviruses does, right? Go underground and look at all of these things to make sure that people don't, to make sure that all of these kind of processes, the ones that are bad processes, are prevented from happening, right? So this is our events viewer. You want to see all the events that are happening on your PC, right? Information is just an information. And most times in our devices, this is always the bulky guy, right? Just an information that maybe there's an update, you have done an update successfully. So information is always something that is, a successful something, right? So you can also look at it, right? You can also look at it, CS-MON SVC source. So this, you can Google it to know what it is, right? So when you are looking at all of these things and you see something that you don't understand why this thing is here, right? For this guy, okay, this is hotkey. Okay, for this guy, I think in the last 24 hours, we've got 19 IGC service. So any of them you don't know what they are, you can actually, look them up on Google. You can also view the instances of that, particular item. For instance, you can see when I click to view all the instances of this source. Instances are like all the location or all the, how do I put it now? All the points all the points that has to do with this source, all the things that have happened on this system that have to do with this particular source is what I want to look at. So if maybe this is a virus now and I want to look at the instances, I can just view all the instances of that virus. You can see from the dates here, the date and time that each of those instances occurred, right? So you can see that most of the instances occurred in 2023. So for instance, if this is an instance that you're investigating on and you want to really, know when that stuff entered that system, right? You have to go down to look at the first date. For instance, I think this instance now started on this system on this date, 20th of June, 2023, right? So that's the first day something like this started happening on this system, right? So, and down here, you can also look at other information about that instance, right? And like I told you, if you get an instance that you don't understand what it is, you can just take it to Google and look it up, right? If I take this now to Google to look it up, definitely Google will tell me what it is, right? So let's try that. Is known as a HP hotkey support and is developed by HP. So definitely, maybe somebody have pressed my keyboard multiple, or myself, I've pressed my keyboard multiple times, or I've tried, accessing the internet or whatever it is. But from all indication, we notice that, okay, this is not a malicious something, right? So if it is something that is malicious, definitely as you drop it on Google, it will tell you, what the whole thing is. I think this should be like maybe sometimes that I try connecting a wire LAN, a network cable from an organization into my PC. I think those are the instances that this information were recorded. And as you can see, it doesn't see it as any threat. So it's not warning me. It's actually giving us an information about that instance. So whatever it is, if any instance is malicious, you can actually come to the right-hand side. You can, delete that instance or export it or whatever it is you want to do about it, right? So you can see that, right? So that is that for the event viewer, right? Any instance you open that you don't understand, when you Google it, because if you Google it and delete just one, there might be multiple instances of that stuff on that PC. So you have to, try to view all the instances. And this is where I got it, where you want to view all the instances of that particular, item that you have found, right? You can view all of it and then look at what they are meant for. So that is for the event viewer. Shared folder, I will not look at it because this is just like sharing multiple. If you want to share, the resources with each other, definitely it is in the share folder you are going to place that resources, right? Also, we didn't look at groups and users, but I think this is, let me not say important, this is always good for you to know how many users, and groups are in a system. Now, where this is important is when carrying out an investigation of who used what, right? And what type of permission does that person have, right? Because definitely if this was like a server and we are providing services, or let's assume, because that's how our computer systems are built. They are built to provide services to different locations too, right? And all of these groups that we have here, they have a particular permission on what they can do on this computer. So if it was a server, let's say we are using this computer as a server, serving 10 persons now, sitting at different locations, right? And I believe we all know that the concept of cloud is still a computer system like mine sitting down here and providing services to everybody. So if I maybe install Zoom on this my PC now, and I now connect the PC to the internet and tell you that, okay, when you when you visit my website, there will be a Zoom link there for you to use and have your own Zoom meeting, right? Just something like that. It means I'm providing you a service over the cloud, right? So you can just go there, get that what I've given to you in my website, and start making use of it. So that is the computing. So if this is what is happening, or let me just say it this way, it is actually from here that all these cloud service providers, develop the concept of cloud computing, because if I have resources, I can actually allow permissions to some certain resources to you, right? And that is what we have here. In the initial Windows machine, permissions are configured for all of these areas. And that is why when you look at the descriptions here, if you look at the descriptions here, you definitely know that, okay, all of these guys have what they can do. For instance, administrators have complete and unrestricted access to the computer and domain, right? Backup operators can override security restrictions for the sole purpose of backing up. But all of these things, most times you can only see them, or you might mostly see them when you are administering a server, right? Most times when you are administering a server, right? So users are prevented from making accidental or intentional system-wide changes and can run most application, right? So those are groups, and you can see this is a user group. So the user group, these are the guys under the user group, right? These are the accounts under the user group. So if there is a crime and the crime is being committed by this user guest, definitely, if you want to carry out an investigation, you will be able to know, because definitely, I think we'll look at that also, how to carry out such investigation to know if it is user PWD or user guest that actually logged in at a particular point in time, or at what time did this person log in, at what time did the other person log in, right? So those are the things you find under local users and this. Now, this is for the system performance, where you can look at how your system is performing. Just like when somebody is sick, or when you go for a test, rather, you go for a test, maybe for you to do a general test to see how your body systems are functioning, right? So this is where we come to know how our device is functioning, right? So you can see all the information about the system, right? The idle time, where's my processor, network interface, and all what. Please, if you are talking to us, I don't know who that person is. Please, you can go ahead and mute your mic if you are not talking to us, please. Right? So we can see the processor time and other information, the idle time, of our systems, right? So we can see all of that here. So then device manager. Device manager is where you have all the tools or all the drives. Please, that person should mute their mic now. Okay, let's proceed. So for device manager, this is where all the drives of your systems are, right? You want anything to do with the drives of your system, whether it is your mic, your internet cable is not connecting, your Bluetooth is not connecting, or you don't have Bluetooth on your system, or all those things that have to do with, an external device, right? That is being added or that serves as an addition to helping your computer system works well. This is where they are. So this is where you come and check whether you have the Bluetooth, right? And if the Bluetooth is allowed to connect to other things. So you can see all the devices that have been connected to my Bluetooth before. They are all listed here, right? If I have connected biometric devices also, now the system comes with an inbuilt biometric device that is. So if I have connected others, you will see it here. If maybe my battery power and strength, also the type of battery I'm using, and all those things, you see them, right? So your audio input, if you have, you can see I have access to use an internal microphone, right? And also the speaker that is embedded on the system. Now, all of these things are things that are embedded on this system, like external supporting devices that are embedded on this system. This is my camera and the camera type, right? So even if you remove this, or you want to update this, or you want to uninstall this, you can actually remove it. So if I uninstall this, it means my camera is not going to be working. If I disable this, it means my camera will not work, right? So at times you can just try wanting to use your cameras and they are not working, or your Bluetooth and they are not working. So it's for you to come to this point and then try to either install, update, or do whatever it is you want to do with them. So for you to get whether you want to update or whatever, you can just right click, right? You can just open rather and then right click on the tool. So you can see that. You can also look at the properties of that tool, right? So my computer system itself, right? I can update the system driver itself. So these are all where you have your drivers, and if any of them, or your external devices or your supporting devices, if any of them is not working, right, on your system, you can actually come here and look at them. So engineer, I think your mouse, like your mouse now, you can come here and see if you have something installed in them, right? And if the problem is actually from one of these drivers that are not there, right? Or it is that the mouse back part or point is spoiled. So these are the ways we fix some of those things, right? Security, processor, the type of processor you have, you can see this is your processor. In case your system gets by and you want to buy a processor and somebody asks you. So this is actually your processor. You can see mine is for i5, right? So this is where you get all of those information. Then we have the storage, where we have to deal with disk management. How do you manage your space on the PC? How do you partition your system? So people just believe that for you to be able to partition a system, you have to format that system. And during formatting, that is when you partition it. No, it is actually wrong, right? So you can actually partition your system. You can manage whatever storage you have. For instance, I have an external storage, which is this. So even if I want to put my OS here and start booting from here, I can do that, right? Okay, I have this. I have my partition number, partition 4, disk 0. So this is actually my C, right? This is actually my C. So I can decide to enlarge or shrink it. And you can see, okay, let's just even go from here. You can see the status of all of these devices. You can see that they are all healthy. So if your C is unhealthy or your device is unhealthy, because definitely all of these storage devices we have, they actually have a lifespan. And so if it is unhealthy, you put it on the system, definitely it will crash in no time. And that is why if you want to buy an external device, we used to look at, there's the word we used to call it, what is the life, is the expectancy of the device, whether it is healthy or whatever, you understand? So when you want to get all of these devices, you have to check and know some of these things. And you can also shrink, for instance, if I want to reduce my C drive, I can decide to shrink it, right? I can decide to shrink this drive so that what I'll now have is I'll have some space left that I can create an empty disk from my C drive. So if not that my C drive is filled, I only have 9 gig left, right? So if not my C drive is free now and I decide to say, okay, I want to shrink it, right? And I go ahead and shrink my C drive, right? So skin volume for available shrink space. Let's see. So if I go ahead and shrink it, you notice that I will have the space that I can have. That's to say, I can create a storage space from that my C drive that I have, right? Because initially or normally, if you look at my C drive, this is what you see, right? You see only this drive. This is actually the external device that I have here. So this is my C drive. If I want to create another location or another drive or another space from this guy, I can shrink this guy and take a space out of this little space that is left and create for something else. Maybe I just want to have multiple drives so that I can be storing other things on that drive. So I can shrink this guy and then get that multiple drives out of it. So you can see it has done the calculation and it's telling me that, okay, total size before shrinking is this. Size available for shrinking is this. So if this is the available size that I can shrink, I can't definitely shrink all of it. So let me just reduce it. Let me say, okay, I will do 3 gig out of it, or let's do 2, right? So I can actually shrink my C drive to have an extra space for me that I can be using. And I can also collapse that extra space. For instance, maybe I have extra space and my C drive is filled. So I can collapse that extra space into my C drive, right? Now, although this will take a little time, but it will come up soon. So these are the things we need to understand about, our computing, our storage devices, and how to manage the disk on our devices. Now we are looking at Windows operating system and the things you really need to know about your Windows machine, other than your normal typing and all whatnot. So that will take us a little more time. So while that is happening, let's navigate to service and application. So services, if I click on services now, you see all the services that are running on my system, all the services that are running on my system, right? So these are, you can see, this is the name of this service, this is the description, this is the status, so it is running. So if maybe I have a service that I really don't want, or I don't understand what it's doing on my system, or maybe that's the service that is slowing my system, I can come to services and then, terminate that service, right? Can come and terminate that service, right? So you can stop a service, you can restart it, you can refresh it, whatever it is you want to do with the services that are running on your system. So also, if you look here, I think it has the description there. Any description you don't know, you can still take it to Google and then look at it. So for instance, like this, you see routes all join message for a local whatever client. If this service is stopped, the all join clients that do not have their own bundled routers will be unable to run. So if I don't know what this guy is, right, I'll just go ahead and stop it, right? Because definitely it's taking my processor time. I believe we understand. So these are all the services running on our system. And honestly, as a forensic examiner or as an investigator, you will definitely be going, if maybe you're invited, maybe somebody is inviting you that, okay, he believes his system is corrupt and all of those things. Now, these are the places you are going to, because you'll be looking at all of these things one after the other. Look at the services that are running, the tasks that are scheduled, what events have happened over time. Those are the places you look, because those are actually the places that, all the malicious guys will try to hide themselves or try to run themselves on that PC, right? So the Windows management instrumentation, right? That is not configured for us, right? Then message queuing, all the messages that your system have queued and they want to either send them or keep them in the system are the things that are stored here, right? So like for mine, I don't have any message that is ready to be sent out of the PC. So for instance, maybe there is a virus that is, interacting with the command and control center over the internet. Definitely, if it has gathered whatever I want to gather, to come and stay here and wait. The moment you connect to the internet, it will send those messages across the internet to whichever command and control that is feeding, right? So these are the places we come to get that. Let's see. Okay, so we have a 2.9 gig unallocated here. Those of us that can see it, right? We have this and it is not allocated to anything. So if I want to, if I want to create or make use of that to be a device for me that I'll use, I'll just allocate it, right? I'll create a new disk from that guy, right? That space that I have carved out. So let me give it a name. Let's pick a name and say, okay, disk Z. Just like we have the C drive. So we want to create another drive and call it the Z drive, right? So I can decide to finish it up by just clicking everything and then finish. So I have been able to create a new volume and the volume is empty, right? Since I didn't give it a name, it's a new volume. So if I come here now, I should have that new volume here. So you can see. So I've been able to create a space for me to be storing things from my PC, right? So you can see that. So these are how we manage your disks. So don't go and because you want to maybe do something, because at times you play around with your disks, your disks, and you tend to destroy them. Please don't go around doing that. So it's actually basic, right? So I can also come here and then delete volume, right? Delete volume. So let me go ahead and delete that. So if I delete that, it becomes unallocated. So if I go back here to my folder, definitely I will not see that again, right? It has gone. So if I want to add it back to this guy, what I'll just do, I'll just go there and then I'll expand this guy, right? Extend. So I'll just come to the guy that I want to add it and then click extend, right? So this is what is available that I can extend to 2.9, because it was 2.9 gig, right? So I can just add all of it back to my C. You notice that it is added to my C. So instead of it being 6 point something gig that it is now, it was 6.23 gig. So if I refresh this, it will now have 9.13 gig available, right? So that is how you play around with your disks. So you can create multiple disk space. You can even decide to create one and hide it where you can be storing some things that you don't want people to have access to on your device, right? Now, I think those are the things we looked at. Then there's also one thing we looked at that I told us that I'm going to look at today, and that is the MX config. Okay, I told us that maybe in our next class, we'll look at it. So you do your Windows arrow and you do MS config, right? So this MS config tab is very, very important. This is where you configure your system, just like I showed us in the Hive keys, right? The current configurations, anything you do here is stored in that Hive key, right? So in the configuration, we have 5 stages of your system that you can configure your system. And this is what we use those days to configure. I don't know, those of us that use Windows 8.1, definitely when you boot it up to desktop, it doesn't come to desktop. It actually goes to a screen where you can see different things, just like a quick access screen, right? So except you click on it before you can navigate to the desktop. So at times, those are the places we use to, configure the window so that when you boot it up, it shouldn't take you to that point. So here you can change your booting, how you want it to boot. You can change it to diagnostic startup. And if you check it, it means it should load basic device only, basic device and services only. There are some people that always prefer that their system be on this mode, right? So that, all those devices that might be making your system slow and all those things will not be, you will not be making use of them, right? Then normal startup to load all device drivers and services. You can keep it there, right? Then selective startup. So like mine is on selective startup to load only startup items and then load system. That is why as it is on my system, the moment it's off, the moment I press the button on, it doesn't go through all those process of going to welcome, this, that, all those things. No, the moment I press the power button on, it just boots and takes come on, like without wasting all those time, right? So, sorry. When you look at your system, most of you might have it at the normal startup, right? And the normal startup, like we used to have our Windows machine. When you boot your Windows machine to start booting, you start waiting for it to finish booting and all of those things. So that is normal startup, right? So most times it's preferable, like for me, I prefer leaving it at the selective startup, right? Then the boot also, you can determine how you want to be booting your system. If I don't want my system to boot for me to be using this graphical user interface, I want to be using only black box, a black screen. I will just come here and click on and check this box, right? Because I don't want it to boot to this desktop. I don't want to be seeing all of these things. Maybe I'm too good with my command and syntaxes, so I don't want it to boot to any of these guys. I just want it to boot and open a black box for me to be doing whatever I'm doing. I'll just come here and then check. If I want to see my OS information when it's booting, I can come here and check also. If I want to see my boot logs, I can come here and check it. If I want to see my base videos, as in the videos, how the booting process are happening, I can also check them and then see how booting occurs, right? So timeout is 30 seconds for booting, right? If this system does not boot, or if maybe I shut it down, at least in 30 seconds, it should shut down. So definitely you can see people still using this system, but they have reconfigured it to suit them what they want, right? So you can also play around this and look at it, the way you want. Make all boot settings permanent. Save boot to save mode, right? So they are all there. Then services also, you can see all the services here also. So like we saw initially in the services, these are the same, they are the same thing here. You can see all of them that are running. The only difference between this guy and the other guy we saw is that both services that are not running and services that are just adamant are listed there, right? I think it's even the same because even the services that are not running, they are also listed here, right? So you can also disable any service that you don't want running, and the date of that disabling will be registered here. If you want to disable all the services running on your system, you can do it here, right? So if you want to hide all Microsoft accounts, you can hide it because why this is important is because maybe since you are using a Microsoft product, you believe that all the services running under Microsoft is because of their system, right? It's because of their system that you are using. So you can, limit it, just remove all the Microsoft guys and start going through other guys. So I'm using AnyDex. This I don't know how it got. Okay, I think maybe one of the tools I have. So and all of these things. So you look at them one after the other to know who is the bad guy here. Like this guy, if I don't know what it is, I can just copy this and put on Google to know who this guy is. And if Google is not giving me something tangible about the guy, what do? I uncheck it, right? I uncheck it. So let me see FP, CS. So is an executable file associated with the software developed by Synaptics and Validity Sensor and certified by Microsoft Windows hardware. So I think this is about the mouse, right? So this is a tool that helps you make use of the mouse, right? So whichever tool it is, you don't know, you can always look out for them to know why they are in your system and what they are actually doing in your system. Now, there are some services that actually might be running and you have uninstalled the application. So why are they there? And if they are running, definitely, they are drinking your memory space. Like I've seen two now. I have Nexus. I think I'm not using Nexus again because I have Splunk. All of these guys were guys that were installed, but these are the things I'm no more using. So why will you now leave them to be running on your system, right? So you can just uncheck them or disable them, right? So this one is startup to restart your system or whatever. So if you open the taskbar, I think the things you just see there are one to restart your system and other things, and to see all the tasks that are running on your system. Then tools. This is very important because, like I told us, almost all the things we have looked at, I think the four things we have looked at, you can actually get them here. For instance, we looked at computer management. This is computer management. So if those of us that started the class initially with me, if you remember, I was trying to get the shortcut of this. So most times when you see us do Windows R, this is what you just paste, right? To get to that location where that tool is, right? So these are like the short code to accessing all of these things. This is a tool, and we have looked at it before. So if you want to know all of these things, you need to know their commands too, because at times you might forget their names and or how to access them. But if you know these short commands, you can easily use it to access them, right? You can easily use it to access them. So it has to come with you know, um, the extension too. So you need to know that you can see, instead of us going and looking for it, you can just use the short command. So about Windows, if you do this, whenever.exe, you get information about Windows. So if somebody asks you what is your Windows, and you just come and do this, right? Okay, you do this, let's do this. So it should give you information about the Windows. So these short commands are commands you just need to know offhand as somebody that should be playing around the Windows operating system. As a matter of fact, all these things are things that I have actually left behind. So bringing us back, my brain cannot really pick them where they are, right? And that is why you see us. Otherwise, these are things that, from the beginning of you making use of the Windows operating system, right? These are things that you should know, as in like you can make a list of them and then know them. WinVar, if you want to change user account settings, I think this one does not have because it's quite long, except you want to type user account control setting.exe, right? You want to do that, you can also just keep it there and launch that tool and look at the tool, right? So whichever one, security and maintenance, WSQ.cpi, so Windows troubleshooting, Microsoft.troubleshooting, and all those things. So you can see MS Info 32, right? So you can see all their shortcuts that you can use. The event viewer that we saw earlier, you can see it here also, right? Event view.exe, program apwiz.cpl, system whatever, control.exe.system. So all of these things, the registry editor, the system restore. So you can just Windows arrow ROST.ROUI.exe. It takes you to system restore. So as an assignment, we should write out all of these shortcuts. Now the shortcuts is just the last word. Those are the things you put on your Windows command. So we have this as an assignment to write them out, all of them, and then practice them, right? Practice them, recite them, regedit. We used regedit here. The command prompt, the normal CMD, which we have been using, tax MGR, yeah, right? Resource monitor, RESTMon, right? RESTMon is also a very good tool. It's a very good tool because you use it to monitor your resources to see the guy that is really consuming the highest resources in your system, right? So it's very important also for you to know to make use of RESTMon, right? So these are all the places that as forensic examiners, they always go to, right? To determine what is really happening in your operating system, in your Windows machine, right? So and on that day also, we looked at hiding stuffs on the Windows machine, how you can create stuffs and hide them, and how it is very important that as an examiner, the moment you get hold of a system, the first thing you need to do is to open any folder on that system, right? Open any folder on that system, go to the view, right? And then this is always unchecked. I believe maybe because I checked it last time. So this is always unchecked. So when you go to the view, always ensure that this guy is checked, right? Before you commence with anything, because this is the guy that, things that are hidden on your device, right? On the device you have access with. If you don't check this box, you will not be able to see them, right? Now, some things like the ones written by Microsoft or tools that comes with, embedded with the system, some of them are hidden actually, so that people don't have access to them and delete them. That's why the default is always unchecked, right? So you as a forensic examiner, when you get hold of any system, always click this and make sure that it is so that you can be seeing everything in the file, including the ones that are hidden, right? And also told us how to hide a file or things that examiners or forensic guys or guys do to cheat you as a forensic examiner, right? For instance, this is a folder named Cyber Colony, right? I can decide to say, okay, let me go to properties and I'll go to customize, right? I go to customize. This is the icon of a folder. I can decide to change that icon to, let me say, let me just use a tool icon so that I want to make you believe that maybe it's a software that was installed, right? So I'll just do that, apply, right? And okay. You notice that this has changed. Somebody that does not know that this is a folder would think that this is actually an application that is installed. And I can still go ahead and say, okay, let me change this name to, let's say, this, right? So, or I give it a name that will make you think that it's an application that is installed. Then I go ahead and hide this. If this is hidden, definitely nobody will see it. Better still, I can still do this. I can still go to customize and then click on an empty space, right? That's what we did the other time. I can just click on an empty space. This is an empty space. I click OK, right? And I do this. So you notice that this is actually an empty space. If I take this and drop on this part that is dark, definitely nobody will know that, okay, something is there. You'll be seeing a dot there. And maybe you might be thinking that maybe it's a dirty or something that is on your system, right? But you will not see that actually there's something hidden here. And I told us that the way to actually beat that is most times always ensure that you always highlight your screen or any folder you find yourself, right? always ensure that you highlight them. Sometimes, especially if you want to do forensic and you are trying to look at things that might be hidden, right? So if you highlight them, you definitely know that, okay, that space will be highlighted also, right? And this is only enabled if you have on hide or you have removed it from being hidden. But when I do this now, I can decide to hide it, right? And you will not see it. So if that hidden stuff is not checked, definitely you will not see it. So somebody can commit a crime and put all the evidence in a particular location and place it like this or hide it. So if you don't do all of this action or take these steps, you will not be able to see that, right? So let me get back my folder. The name was Cyber Colony. Okay. And then it was a folder. So let me go back to customize and then choose icon. And I will now choose folder. I will now apply. And I have gotten back my folder, right? So these are some of the techniques we use. As we are progressing, we'll be looking at some anti-forensic techniques also, just like what we have looked at. Those ways in which people will try to hide a file or a particular thing from the eyes of any normal person, right? I think those are some of the things, or those are almost all the things we looked at on the Windows operating system. So let's look at Kali. I think basically what we did that day on Kali was play around with some commands. Commands like, we looked at commands um, like our permissions, and we discussed about permissions extensively on that day. Now, permissions, both Windows, both Linux, whatever tool we find ourselves using, always know that there are permissions that have been granted to you as the user to be able to make use of that tool, right? Although I'm saying it because we are looking at the boot devices. If, for instance, this permission is not given for me to open this folder, definitely I cannot open that folder, right? Because I have the permission, I can open it. That's why I'm opening it. But if I download a software now, I don't have the permission to open that software code and start editing it, right? I only have the permission to read that this software has a name. I read the name of the software and the permission to execute that software, but I cannot write into that software, right? So if those of us that did basic computing, you definitely understand that we were taught, I think it's in 200 level or thereabout in our early stage, how permissions work. And you have the read, the write, and the execute permissions, right? Now, permissions are hidden most times when we are looking at Windows machine. When you are in Linux machine, those permissions are not taken into consideration because most times, like we all know, people that contribute to Linux just build these things, just write these codes, raw codes, and drop them. You go and download those codes and then make use of them, right? So we looked at permissions, how to grant permission, how to give yourself an executable permission, a read-write permission. Normally, if somebody writes something and send to you, you have a permission on that thing to either read what that person has written to us and send to you, or to write in that thing and send back to that person, right? So in Linux, permissions are very important. And maybe I have not finished developing our courseware actually. That is why I have not sent it. So I've written extensively on permissions on that. So we are going to read through so that you get to understand more about permissions. But just know that before you make use of any tool that you have downloaded on Linux, in as much as a software you want to install on Linux, then you need to grant the install permission, right? So that is one of the things we looked at the other day. We looked at several other commands, right? And I believe for those of us that are just joining, this is the interface. This is how the Kali Linux looks like, right? I told you that we are learning multiple operating systems, and as somebody that is into cybersecurity, you cannot limit yourself to one operating system. And so we are looking at this. I think for those of us just joining, you bear with us because I think this is actually supposed to be content of our third class, our third meeting. So in our first meeting, we have told us to download a virtual box and install, and also download Kali Linux and install. So those people just joining, you can private chat us to guide you on what you will need to install or how to get to this point, right? So like we also told us, Kali Linux provides several tools that can be used for several forensic stuffs and hacking stuffs, right? So these are like inbuilt tools, follow-come tools, right? On Kali Linux, right? So we have covered this, right? Then and worked ourselves around some of the Kali stuff. So like we established, for you to interact with anything in Kali, you have to do that using this black box that I just opened. Now this black box, I came here and opened it, right? Just click on here and it opened as a terminal emulator, right? So that is that for the terminal emulator, and this is where you use to interact with your Linux machine. So at times, most of those tools you have seen there that I've shown you, when you click on them, it's actually opening a black box like this for you. And you should know how to interact with them. And that is why we told us before now that learning Kali Linux commands are very important, because those are the things that you'll be using to do your interaction with the Linux operating system. It's not like Windows where you'll be clicking, and clicking things, right? So we have looked at several, commands before now. So we looked at CD command to use for change directory, right? We looked at CD command that is used for changing of directory. I think I dropped a cheat sheet for us, right? So let me not dwell too much on that. Let's look at that cheat sheet. Those of us that are just coming in, we'll still repost that cheat sheet so that you look at all the commands that you can be using on this, right? But like I told us, we looked at permissions the other time, and we looked at a particular command, the chmod command. So the chmod command is the command that you use to change mode, right? To grant permission. Now, like I also told us, any command you don't know much, you can man the command. Just do man. Then you write the command after that. So it will give you a manual. Man stands for manual. A manual of that command. So this manual page documents the version of chmod, whatever. So it's just telling you this is how a chmod is used, right? We have the file dropped in the group. The chmod helps us change, permissions of a particular file. And I told us in the last class that it works with base 8 system of numbering. That's what the chmod works with, base 8 system of numbering. So if you look through, you read through, and you know how to use it. So, or what it is used for. But we'll be looking at, some of the things, or how chmod really works, right? So let's do this. Let me check what is actually in this location that we are. So we know that ls command is used to list out all the things that are in the location that you are. If I want to know where am I really at, I can say pwd. What it means is print working directory. That's I'm in a location. So it prints that particular location where I am working. You can even use who am I, right? To also know who you are. So it's telling me that I am Kali. And if you look at my PWD, you say you are in the home of Kali. right? That's what it's saying. So I am Kali. I can use clear to clear my screen, right? So remember that I'm on my home/Kali. So I'm gonna have desktop. So let me come into my desktop. I'll use CD and desktop. So this is the same as me sitting on this desktop that I'm seeing, right? That we are seeing where you see this home, file system, and trash. This is the same thing as me sitting on this desktop, right? So I can still do something like, okay, I want to create a folder on that desktop. We told us of a command, make directory. So mkdir stands for make directory. Those of you that have not seen that cheat sheet, please go through it because all of these commands are there and what they do. So want to make a directory, want to create a folder, just like you create a folder on your Windows machine, right? So I want to create a folder named practice. So I make directory practice. You can see that we now have a folder here named practice, right? So I can go into that folder, like me opening that folder now, right? And I am inside that folder. Remember, when I'm inside a folder, this is the path it is giving me, is the location, right? So if I come and say, okay, PWD now, you can see what it is telling me. I am in home, Kali, desktop, and practice, right? So this is the working directory that I am. Let's say I've entered this guy, right? So if I go ahead and clear my screen again, and I am in practice, let me list out what is in practice. You can see that there's nothing in practice. So let's create a file in that practice, right? So if I say, okay, I want to use another command, echo the class is boring. Is the class boring? Okay, I want to echo this into a particular file. Let's say the file is pract.sh. Now, always know that anything you are naming, in as much as it is a file, it must have its extension. In Windows, extensions are already there. All our files in Windows have their extensions. You see some .exe, .docx, .cdr, .excel, .this. So all the files we have, the .txt, they have their extension. So when you use a tool in Windows, the tool itself attach the extension to whatever you are doing. But in Linux, you have to specify the extension itself. So if I change this sh to docx, for instance, it means I am creating a Word document that if I copy it out and take it to any Word, to any Microsoft Word, it should be able to open, as in it should open it, right? So if I do this and I press enter, right, I've created a document. So you can see the document. If I do my ls, it is now there. So even if I come out here and look at practice and click to open the folder practice, definitely you will see that I have the MS document that I created here, right? So even if I take this out to where I have MS Word, definitely I can open this stuff. So extensions matters a lot, right? Extension matters a lot. So always know that when you are creating any file, you must specify the extension, right? So if maybe I want to create another file, or just like we are seeing this file, let's look at the permission of this file. So for us to look at that, we can do ls-l. Remember the other day we say -l is for long listing. If you look at your man ls, right? If you look at this and look at where L is, right? Let's go down to L. So use a long listing format. That is what -l does. So if I write ls-l, use a long. So all of these are actually, options that you can use together with the ls command, right? So I'll use the -L here, right, to list it in a long format. So you can see what I have here. I have prac.docs, right, created at this time, this day, right? And this is the space, the number of bytes, right? Now, this is the owner or the user, right? And this is the group in which the user belongs to, just like we saw initially, right? Now, if you look at this, these are the permissions of that file. Now, if you're looking at permission, the first one, you always don't consider it because it is either they are telling you that this thing is a directory or not. So if it is a folder, the first dash will show a D, right? But if it's not a folder, it will show you a dash. So the first mark there is to show whether it is a folder or just a file, which is either will appear as a D or not. Then we see the arrow W and a dash. Now that is the first group of read, write, and execute. So me, that is the actual user, the Kali now, who is the owner, I have the ability to read and write, but I cannot execute that file. If, for instance, that file is, in much as a file is maybe, let's say, a software, I cannot execute it because it is not enabled. The permission is not enabled, right? Please mute your mic, please. Then the second arrow dash dash. So the first one, you notice that the X is not here. So this is supposed to be the first block, read, write, execute. So the user does not have the execute permission here, right? Which is me, myself now, who is the user, the person that created that file. Now this is the group own. That of the group does not have, it has only read, but cannot execute. So even you that is sitting somewhere else and looking at this file, you can only look and read at this file that this file is this. Or if somebody is connected to this PC or we are sharing this PC from another location, right? You can only look at this file, but you cannot edit it. That is why at times you look at the file, but you cannot open it. Because the permission is not there. You can only read that file, but you cannot execute it. Neither can you write into it. And that is the same permission that a guest here also have. Can only read, but cannot write nor execute, right? So if this is a software now and I want to install it, what do? I will need to enable the execute permission for me, that is the user, right? So for me to do that, we use a command known as a chmod, that's a change mode. It's used to change the mode of a file, right? And I told us it operates in a base 8, format. And what is base 8? What is the numbering is in base 8? If I do this for us, let's do this. I think we did this the other day. Notepad. Those of us that are computer students, right? Base 8. Base 8, 0 is 0, 0, 0, right? 1 is 0, 0, 1. 2 is 0, 1, 0. I guess that is it. 3 is 0, 1, 1. 4 is 1, 1, 1, 0, 0. 5, 1, 0, 1. I'm just using what is in my old head though. 6 is 1, 1, 0. and 7 is 111. Although I'm not certain if it correct, right? So you know this is numbering in base 8. This is how numbering looks like in base 8. And you know it starts from 0 to 7, base 8, right? So you know that when it's 0, it means, since we are looking at 3 items, ROW X, right? We are looking at 3 items, ROW X, right? So it means when it is 1, it means the thing is present, the value is present. When it is 0, it means the value is off, right? So for all these guys that are 0 or dash, it means their value is off. While these guys that are on, it means their value is 1, right? So if you look at the first guy here, it's like 110, right? Which is 6. The second guy is 100, which is 4, and same as the third guy, right? So if we want, since I want this user to be able to execute, I want to add 1 here. I want this guy to be on, right? So what will I do? I will do 7 here because I want all of them to be on. So what I'll do is to change mode 7. So this 7 stands for the first group of these guys, right? And it means all of them should be on, because from this, you can see all of them are on, right? So I'll use 7, right? So this guy that is 100 is what? 100 is 4. So I can still continue with their 4, 4. So this guy should remain the way it is, and this guy should remain the way it is, but this guy should be added 1 to it, right? So I now put the name of the file, frac.docx, right? So if I do that and I do my listing, right? You
Baba,
notice that, please mute your mic, please. So you notice that it has changed. What it did now is to assign the X to this guy, right? So I have been able to change the ROW that was here and added X to it so that I should be able to execute this, but every other person should not be able to execute it. So most times this is the default for the person that developed the software, because he can actually install it right into it and view it, right? So this is what I have been able to do, right? So that is the little mathematics that is involved in granting or changing permissions, right? And if you look at the file also, this is the initial color of the file, right? But now, since I can execute this file, this is the color of the file, right? So if this was a programmable file, definitely I must change the what is it called, the mode to be executable before I am able to run it. Otherwise, I will not be able to run it. If maybe I say, okay, let's take back these files to how they were, right? How we are there, this is 110. Yeah, this is 110. 110 is 6, right? 110 is 6. So I can decide to say, okay, instead of 7, let me put 6, right? And I do this. If I do it back, you notice that the file has gone back to the way it is, right? So we need to understand all these things, because these are the ways we use in applying permissions to a particular file in Linux or on Linux, actually. I know file permission is always something that is hard, but just understand that if you want all of them to be on, use 7, because all of them in 7, all of them are on based on this, right? If you want arrow to be on, W to be on, and X to be off, use this 6, right? If you want arrow to be on, W to be off, and X to be on, you use this. So this is the pattern you use to understand how to arrange your arrow WX. But you are using these numbers, the normal alphabet of base 8, to represent them when you are actually drawing out this stuff, right? So these are the basic things we saw when we looked at, or what we looked at the other day. I think we also looked at something like this, if config, and I think this is what we used the other day. So I told us also that most times, most of the commands you run on Linux, you can actually write them into scripts yourself. You understand? You can write them into script. Like for instance, I did if config and it gave me all of this. I can just create this to be a file. I can say echo if config into a file named conf.sh, right? So if somebody decides to run that file, let me do my ls. You can see I have 2 files here, right? Now, when you see an extension .sh, it means it is a bash script, right? So they are telling me that I have 2 files here. So if I run the long listing now, you notice that I have something like this, right? This file, even though it's a programmable file, it's like a software, it cannot run. Because if I run it now, for instance, this is how you run a file on Linux, right? So if I run, you see, they will tell me permission denied, right? Because that guy does not have the permission. But if I decide to change mode of that file, let me say I change the mode to 777. Let me say I'm enabling everybody to be read, write, and execute. And I do conf.sh, right? I've changed that. So if I do my long listing again, you notice that conf.sh has changed. So if I run this now, you see that it will run and give me a result for my if config, right? So the same thing. So you can actually program a command into a tool or into a file and keep. So if I just come now and I want to run if config, even if I have forgotten how to run the command, this is important because I just you might write a large command and you don't want to forget them. So instead of you not to forget them, you can push it into a file and keep. You have written your own software too that you can copy and give to somebody and say, okay, instead of uh, you going to run this whole commands again, just use this file and run this file, and that's all. So you can also do that. I think with time we are going to be writing a script to see how these things work. A script that you can copy out and maybe use it on another PC or something like that, so that you see how these things are done and they work. But just understand that you can actually push a command into a file and make it a file, right? That you will be using. So we'll be stopping the class here today. And like I told us, this is just a makeup class for those of us that missed the last class on Friday. Actually, our class is supposed to be Mondays, supposed to be Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, right? So maybe there was a miscommunication to us, and that is why it is like that. I never knew that the information put out there is for Saturday. And Saturdays, we have other things. I think there are other classes on that day already. So we'll be doing our classes Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., right? So I don't know if there are questions and somebody will want to ask any question, please, you can go ahead and ask.